Hi and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of May 24, 2021. In terms of the stock market direction, I think Monday and Tuesday are going to be up days, and I think that on Wednesday and Thursday market may go down and the drop may start as early as Tuesday afternoon, and then I think on Friday things will reverse back to up. I think this whole week, but especially on Wednesday and Thursday, we will see increased focus on things like oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, as well as navy, water, precipitation, water pollution, and basically all of the different Neptunian domains. And I think especially on Wednesday and Thursday, there may be some concerning news about those areas, such as concerns about the real value of something, about the prices being maybe either too high or too low, and there may be some discussions about, say, maybe acquisition of a related business like a pharmacy or some oil related business, but then there again may be disagreements about the real value, and at this time the real value of either business or product or service may not be very clear, and really additional sort of research or extra care is needed with respect to sort of detail that may be omitted, or some information may not be known at this time to really make that a full assessment. For the US, also days of May 25th through 27th may see increased focus on the same issues such as oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, water, wet weather, beverages, also of course religion, music, movies, all of those are again Neptunian domains. And there, yet again, the concerns may be about the value of these products or businesses going down, or some concerns associated with like increased expenses on those areas, and especially related to either enabling transportation or sales, or basically disagreements in terms of, say, communication about these products, and disagreements about the value of either, again, a project, business, or the actual commodity. And at the same time, again, for the US, there may be some intensification of activities that are related to military, and particular to Navy, such as maybe there will be increased discussions or negotiations that are related to Navy, and possibly like the ships that are carrying airplanes, or something that enables to also use, I guess, either drones or rockets or something like that. So there may be some increased either negotiations on those areas, and or there may be news about increased expenses on those areas or increased profits from those areas. So perhaps like a large sale of some weapons, or some increased funding for those areas, or some support for military activities. Another area, again, that could be prominent for the US could be, of course, also like casinos, sports, any areas that involve some heightened risk or increased sort of dangerous activities. So there too, there may be increased news about either increased profits or expenses, or increased funding for those domains. Wednesday globally and Thursday, like I said, may be fairly strong drops in the stock market. On Wednesday, generally, there may also be increased focus on international relations, negotiations, communication, transportation areas, and especially long-distance travel and shipments. There may be increased news about things like tariffs and taxes, and areas affected the most might be related to food, agricultural items, farming, things like that, and also issues related to immigration. Again, of course, movement across borders, all of those things may be fairly prominent on Wednesday, and these news may be focused on increasing security, increasing stability, providing better care, improving reliability. So perhaps improving reliability of transporting people across borders, like via railway, for example, or on the change of leadership. Again, maybe change of leadership to improve basically stability related to, again, communication, transportation, but also improving maybe stability and security of, say, food supply. And again, this could be done through some tariffs or some additional regulations. Globally, the dates of May 26th and 27th, but also similar influence may come again June 3rd and 4th. And those, I think, may again be large market drops. And at that time, those could be basically triggered by some stressful news related to either oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, and either some concerns about their value, concerns about large projects related to those domains, or some fighting related to, again, disagreements about the value of the related commodities or businesses. There may also be increased news about some secrets, confusing situations, like lies, spying, hacking, deception, something that's unclear. And again, that's sort of what might bring market down, is that confusion or a lack of clarity where things are heading, or the real value is, or what the prices are, or, you know, what the actual, sale price of maybe some business or some service will be. So temporarily, if there are any sort of confusion or these discussions on 26th and 27th of May, things may actually look up on the 28th, Friday, which is why I think things may actually, market may go up on Friday. That said, by the 30th, which will be on Sunday, things unfortunately can again regress, and we will have Mercury also turning retrograde at that time. So any ongoing negotiations that might look up on Friday may actually again regress and kind of turn back to the situation of uncertainty, a lack of clarity by early next week. And things may from there actually get worse and even escalate to kind of more serious aggressive clashes, perhaps involving military or just aggressive, words. And by June 3rd, we will also have Mars opposing Pluto, and that will be potentially one of the reasons for the 3rd and 4th of June being extra tense days. So that's next week, and at that time, things, like I said, may worsen. So any agreements that maybe were looking slightly better on Friday this week may actually again run into some disagreements, even perhaps worse disagreements next week. And again, June 3rd and 4th may see other issues associated with this Mars opposition to Pluto, which would be perhaps something like accidents, earthquakes, mining accidents, anything that's underground, like a storage of some sort. Things may collapse, or basically there may be more increased probability of aggressive like protests or aggressive activities, because more people will be kind of more on the edge than usual. Similarly, if there's like transportation projects or communication projects that were probably being discussed this week, and again, things may be looking up on Friday, by 3rd and 4th of June, things may not necessarily go so well. So going back to this week, Thursday probably is going to be the most tense day of this week. Increased focus yet again on oil, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, things of that nature, ships, also medications, religion, prisons, drug shipments, anything that's like hidden and sort of tucked far away, maybe, I don't know, like I said, a prison or a monastery, something like that. Those areas may be sort of in the news more than usual because of either some problems, some negotiations that are not quite reaching the deal, or even if the deal is reached, maybe the value will be too high or too low. Perhaps, an acquisition of a business is overpriced and the price will be corrected later to a lower price. So at this time, basically, there is no clarity of what the real price or value is, and either that causes confusion or it will cause an adjustment later. There may also be other issues associated with, like I said, excessive precipitation, something leaking, some, contamination is breached. Contamination, contaminated water, or some liquid is released to pollute water, or containment is breached, basically. And there basically may be some concerns about, like I said, purity of water, or some problems with, say, deliveries that are done via waterways. By Friday, things should look up, and I think market will go up. but there may still be increased news about transportation and communication, but they will likely be positive for those areas on Friday, such as increased profits. Maybe the deals will go better and smoother. The funding has increased, the sales have increased, the prices kind of are higher, but again, products perhaps seem to be attractive to buyers, so they can actually ask for more, and they will get whatever the higher price that they're asking for. The period of May 28 through 31st for US and globally may yet again see focus on the same Neptunian domains: oil, gas, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, navy, ships, excessive precipitation, just water, beverage, as well as monasteries, prisons, movie theaters, those kind of locations. And there too may be news about basically increased precipitation, too much sort of a good thing, too much water, too much gas. Things may be flowing smoothly, so if there's maybe some sort of shipment or delivery that's occurring via water or underwater or off something that's liquid, like via like a pipeline or something like that, those actually will be going in even maybe faster and easier than usual. At the same time, sometimes too much is not always better. So if you have maybe a storm passing through at this time, 28th through 31st, it will be more likely that it will bring more water. The water will be flowing unrestrained and may indeed cause to overflow or some contamination. Same thing goes for any sort of drugs or chemicals, things that perhaps shouldn't be maybe crossing the water, shouldn't be flowing too easily into the environment. At this time, unfortunately, their release will be harder to stop. At the same time, if something is stopped, maybe like I said, a smuggling operation of some sort, it may be larger than usual in size. On the positive sort of end of it, 28th through 31st, we may see some news about increased availability of, say, oil, gas, and other services and products, so maybe related to, say, movies or songs or photography equipment, and some pharmaceuticals, so things may be more easily available, they're easier to find, consumers kind of can have faster access to that. And on the negative side, like I said, increased probability of floods, excessive precipitation, pollution, but also some contamination or spread of some disease. So those things are going to be flowing faster and kind of more abundantly than usual. Then on the 30th through the 31st of May, there may be increased focus on communication transportation businesses with focus on new goals, new leaders, sort of new vision, new plans. We may hear announcements about new projects, like I said, new leaders, new transportation destinations, new maybe apps, new ways of communicating, increased sales, increased offerings, increased like coverage. Maybe, some cell phone company offers better coverage than before, increased travel volume. So for those companies, 30th and 31st of May actually look positive. So now let's talk about a glance ahead about the upcoming few weeks to few months. In June, we're going to have increased sort of influence of this ongoing background transit of Saturn and squaring Uranus, and at this time it's going to be with us through November of next year, but it will be getting closer and closer, more precise in June, and kind of getting, I guess, the strongest, I would say, for this year at the end of June through early July, where it will also have Mars joining in on the party and forming a T-square. But in the early June, we will have, as I said, in addition to this square between Saturn and Uranus, we will also have Mars opposing Pluto, which will add this additional kind of a sort of element of danger, risk, and I would say angry, violent kind of activities. Again, this could be just natural events such as, say, an earthquake, but unfortunately those aspects also often coincide with like industrial disasters, airplane crashes, helicopter crashes, or some underground storage or mining accidents, things like that. So that kind of a dangerous time will begin, I would say, sometime from the 29th of May and will last through at least the 6th of June. And of course, like I said, things will be also quite dangerous, in my personal opinion, starting about June 29th through around the 9th of July. So those are the time periods to keep an eye in terms of, again, possibility of some losses, damages. Again, that could be just due to bad weather and some natural causes. That said, it may not be the best time for traveling because things just may break down more easily. There could be some accidents, etc. Then later in July, the dates from July 27th through 30th may also experience large stock market moves, and especially July 28th and 29th. And at that time, the direction actually may be up. Regardless of the direction, at late July, I think there may be some increased volatility in the stock market where investors may be feeling like they need to go overboard, either sell a lot or buy on the low. But it'll be this almost like a mildly frenzied, mood among the investors. And at the same time, there may also be some turbulent weather where perhaps like increased volcanic activity or just some disruption to the travel, for example. And at the same time, there are also maybe increased sort of issues regarding like legal arguments, important court cases, news involving judges, immigration laws, international relations. So that's at the end of July. Globally then, moving into, I guess, further in the summer, globally as well as with the US, August and then December of 2021 seem to be important dates where there may be important announcements out of the US regarding fiscal policies, maybe some decisions regarding like currencies, perhaps rates, etc. And at those times, which is again around August 9th and then especially December 15th, there may be I think increased also value for gold and or silver. And I think overall gold and silver are going to go up through, like I said, to peak overall for this year around December 15th. But I think around August 9th, maybe an intermediate top as well. For the US, starting at the end of August, so August 24th through about end of February 2022, maybe a time period where there may be either some confusion or some uncertainty related to things like military weapons, Navy, and partnerships or agreements with partners that again relate to perhaps Navy. I don't know what that might be. Some maybe mutual either agreements or moves or something like that. And at the same time, there may be increased probability of there being miscommunication or some signal being misinterpreted or basically some overreaction to something that's not really there. Again, like a fog, and something comes out of the fog and it's unclear what that is. And so there's an overreaction and it's really, a rock or something like that. So unfortunately, but also increased probability of yet again, either some spying or hacking. And this could be related to Navy and ships, but also could be related yet again to the pipelines or oil and gas operations, as well as, of course, other Neptunian areas, beverages, movie theaters, monasteries, all of the above. And unfortunately, like I said, there was this increased probability of some either accidents or bad weather affecting operations of those areas, and that's for the US specifically. And globally, also at the very end of August and especially then early September, especially September 1st through 3rd, may yet again see globally increased focus on oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, those areas. And those areas may yet again be experiencing some stressful circumstances, so perhaps major storms or bad weather, preventing oil delivery or disrupting oil operations, or fighting among, countries that are oil producers, or just fighting in the area where there's, oil processing, and that disrupts, the transportation or production. And I think at the same time, there may be a large market drop, particularly on September 3rd. So then to quickly also go over some new predictions that I made for the upcoming years, so beyond this year and That's because I put some new predictions on my blog at lastunka.com, just to kind of quickly go over that. I'm not going to be repeating this every week. But basically, a couple of things to note. Next year in early April, around especially April 4th, plus minus a few days, there may be, I think, serious, significant floods, and that's kind of a global prediction. And we will have basically Neptune and Jupiter in conjunction, which leads to sort of abundance of water, oil, etc. And in the past, it also would coincide with things like a major oil spill, chemical attack, major weather involved, where there's just too much precipitation, things again spill over, flooding, contamination of soil, could be a large earthquake with tsunami specifically, or just some other large-scale industrial incident, again, involving things, again, oil or chemical or gas or something being released and contaminating something or poisoning surrounding environment, unfortunately. Other things that may be a manifestation is also like spread of some disease and some leaking of something that's like poisonous. Regarding oil, again, this could be an important time for oil prices. Again, there might be too much oil, like an oil glut, or something, like I said, spills or leaks. Then also next year, 2022, August 1st, plus minus a few days, yet again, is a problematic time where there may be either a major accident, industrial disaster of some sort, or accident involving airplane. But also there may be some volatile time where there may be just too much volatility in the stock market, especially relating to banks, cryptocurrencies, and currencies in general, but more likely solutions that are providing like digital solutions of some sort, whether it's sending money to the bank or paying for things online, etc. That's around August 1st of next year. For the US, generally 22 and 23 are going to be years of some difficulties, as in there are two major upcoming transits that are noteworthy for the US. So one will be Neptune will be entering its fourth house, associated with things like real estate, banking, borders, and agriculture and farmlands. And Neptune has to do with things like washing things away, making things unclear, uncertain, but also flooding things. And it could be like literal floods, where again, contamination of soil and problems with, produce, for example, due to, again, just obviously it's hard to farm on contaminated land. And also it could be flooding in terms of like the real estate underwater, in the sense that maybe there's some problem with the real estate, maybe there's too much availability, or things are basically, people cannot afford to pay for things, something along those lines. And at the same time, again, for the US, we will have the what's called the Pluto return, meaning that Pluto is going to come back to its original position when where it was when the country was founded. So in 1776. And that obviously is a very long cycle, so that this is the first time that is happening. But typically it coincides with this kind of new, death and rebirth cycle, because that's what Pluto symbolizes. It symbolizes things, the underworld, rules Scorpio. So basically the death and rebirth kind of a sign. And things that may be particularly in focus globally that are associated with Pluto would be things, again, mining, nuclear power, power of any sort, power isn't like how power plants are functioning, where the power electricity is coming from, as well as power as in who's in power, like who rules what, basically like some reshuffling, I guess, and the levels of various governments or tops of the corporations. And also in the US, the specifically second house, meaning banks, currencies, value, is going to be impacted, which would, again, there will be this change, death and rebirth, as far as like what is the actual value, like is the currency valuable, or what are more generally the values of the society, like so things may be reevaluated. So things that you seem to be valuable before, maybe a value of some currency, and I'm not saying necessarily US dollar, but anything that's used as currency, or perhaps value of some banks or financial institutions, how much, the value that they have perceivably may change, and different organizations or entities that perhaps were not seen as valuable suddenly may rise to prominence and be now considered valuable. So that's just a very general global preview, but basically 22 and 23 are going to be fairly significant years for the US, where there may be a lot of changes that are not necessarily happening too often. And at the same time, just to quickly add, there will be this Neptune that's transiting. Currently, actually, it's affecting or having a difficult transit to US Neptune, which is why there will be a lot of news continuing for the next few months about like oil industry, all these pipelines, gas, etc. Because also, Neptune obviously rules those areas, and with the difficult transit of the transiting Neptune in the sky to the US Neptune, these areas will undergo some difficult changes, which again will last for decades. And then looking beyond that, the next big year, I would say, where there will be a lot of changes both for the US but also globally, it will be year 2025. Obviously, things are not happening just overnight, on January 1st, so things may start feeling, we may start feeling those changes and, mid to end of 2024. But 2025 will see some important influences. So one is, of course, Neptune is going to be going into the sign of Aries, which may bring concerns about, say, clean water, concerns about droughts. There's this investor, Michael Burry, I believe he's focusing on investing in, say, water recycling, clean water sources. And indeed, 2025 is when issues of water, availability of water, water contamination, water recycling, industrial scale projects related to that will definitely be quite significant. And that will be, like I said, due to this transit of Neptune into Aries, but also we will have Saturn conjunct Neptune, which Saturn will bring indeed this industrial sort of focus on that, regulation. So it could be shortages of related, say, shortage of water, shortage of oil, or regulations, maybe like rationing of certain things or regulations to the point where things are not allowed to proceed, be it because, you don't want contamination to spread, so you have to regulate that, or you're regulating things because obviously for power purposes, to basically control who gets to have how much of what. But Neptune will be somewhat weakened because, again, it's going from its own sign where it's feeling comfortable, Pisces, into a sign where it's basically being, the water is being dried out and things are being used for perhaps wrong purposes, where, Aries has to do with things like sports or military. So you can have things that are related to Neptune, such as drugs, for example, used for by athletes, inappropriately, or some medical research is being used for military purposes. It could be obviously for good to help soldiers heal faster, and there may be indeed a lot of innovations associated with that, like maybe some medical advancements to heal wounds much faster or burns faster, etc. So that's actually obviously is a good thing, or using virtual reality to maybe help people recover, or obviously it could be used for military, for sports, maybe playing sports virtually, things like that. So there are obviously both good and bad possible manifestations, but because Neptune is weakened, unfortunately, there's greater probability, not probability, but there's a greater risk of things kind of being misused. So to give some specific dates that I just looked up recently for 2025 is, I would say basically February 1st of 2025 is plus minus few days, is a day where there may be major accidents, and also there may be some increased probability of reversals in the price of, say, oil, gas, but also even water, anything that's related to investments in water, perhaps like a major top at that time. And another time will be April, I'd say April 11 through around April 21st, again, 2025, plus minus a few days. There too may be increased like large accidents, earthquakes, industrial disasters, shakeups at the level of governments or corporations, and like maybe a blocked waterway or blocked pipeline, and those events may lead to some protests and fighting at the end of April. For the US, period of April 1st through May 30th of 2025, and especially May 5th through the 12th, and then January and February of 2026, may see increased focus on currencies, financial policies, and the large moves in gold and or silver. So there, I think there may be some notable changes in the financial policies, currency value, and that may have a major effect on value of gold and silver. Then globally, and for the US, the period around June 14th is significant. Again, some major situations involving, say, US leaders or US leadership, or some new goals for the country, but also globally. Unfortunately, it's yet again a time where there may be major accidents or major like lightning storms, airplane accidents, some changes for the power plants. It could be, of course, by design, like maybe something is completely leveled down to be rebuilt, or it could be due to, say, an accident or earthquake. At the same time, there may be increased volatility related to currencies, banks, their value, and for the stock market. And unfortunately, there may be some major event around this date, so June 14th, 2025, that will either affect large numbers of people, so like a major policy change that is really affecting like entire country or, continent, or it could be an event that just is well known to many people because maybe it's televised, like maybe a major airplane disaster that just is continuously being televised or in the news, and so many people are becoming aware of it. And it may also be affecting industries, again, related to oil, gas, water supply, agriculture, and pharmaceuticals. And indeed, as I mentioned before, with the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in 2025, there's increased probability of another sort of pandemic. The same transit was in effect during 1918 when we had Spanish flu, for example. And then lastly, for 2025, another important period to keep in mind is August, especially 8th through the 14th. And there too could be a major accident, possibly involving like a power plant or fire or earthquake, and something is shifting out of balance. Maybe there's like a cargo ship or airplane where some load is shifted, a door opens and things obviously don't go well. Or it could be maybe, like I said, a fire that is either endangering like a power plant or storage, or even a nuclear power plant or some facility where something dangerous is being stored. And at that time, things may happen a lot faster than usual. Maybe it's the wind that's picking up, things are drier than usual, and at the same time there's shortage of water, whether it's because it was restricted or there's drought or water is already contaminated. But there is this kind of unfortunate, like this perfect storm situation. And again, that's August 2025, where things are hotter than usual, things are moving faster than usual, but yet there is no way really to stop things because somehow water is blocked or oil is not available or whatever is needed, some sort of liquid that's needed to be maybe to put out the fire or to stop things is not quite available, or it's shifted, that it's too far, and there's this imbalance, and unfortunately things may get out of control. And so that is one of fairly difficult times again. So the entire year, I guess 2025, seems like a year to be sort of aware of ahead of time, with many of these days that I just mentioned being fairly significant, and things that occur maybe once in a few decades or once in a decade, something that, is fairly major shift both globally and for the US. So definitely keep an eye on that. Better be prepared ahead of time. And in terms of the global transits, I'm not going to be repeating myself. It's basically the same as for last week, so you can just check out the video for last week, but the main influence is basically the square of Uranus and Saturn that's with us, and it's just going to be intensifying moving into June. So until then, I hope you have enjoyed this episode, and will come back and check me out next week. Until next time, have a great week. Bye everyone.